Oh, busy program tonight. We're going to cover some of the issues of the day and have a little bit more orientation on this American Muslim conversation. Welcome into my state of mind. I am Dan York. You know, last night we had a pretty profound conversation with political science professor, really, Middle East studies and the study of Islam from URI. And tonight we're going to talk to the principal of the Islamic School of Rhode Island, and we'll have some more tomorrow night. And the reason being is I think we've got to get a little bit more aware of the issues of the day and challenge the American Muslim community, but hear from the American Muslim community so that we get to know each other a little better in this time of sound bites and some would say demagoguery. All right, so stay tuned for that. And I don't care if you're with Trump, you're not with Trump, you want to hear from people from our community, don't you? Learned audience of mine. To the rundown we go. Hey, this isn't making a lot of news, but this is a big news. This is a big deal. Here's the headline that is running through Washington. All this complaining about No Child Left Behind, well, that kind of goes by the wayside. The president, well, there's a couple of, I think we have a couple of headlines, right? We've got another one as well here that kind of describes this. Yeah, well, No Child Left Behind, left behind. You know, there's some things I used to complain about when it came to No Child Left Behind, the notion that we had to kind of move all the kids across the finish line at the same time, yet there were standards. But I guess everybody on the left and the right were saying we got to touch this thing up, and that's not such a bad thing. The president spoke about it today.
Today I'm proud to sign a law that's going to make sure that every student is prepared to succeed in the 21st century. The goals of No Child Left Behind, the predecessor of this law, were the right ones. High standards, accountability, closing the achievement gap, making sure that every child was learning, not just some. But in practice, it often fell short.
You know, you'll still not know what the heck this is all about until you do some reading on it. And I suggest you do, especially those of you who are parents of kids in school. It's now called Every Student Succeeds. No Child Left Behind, Every Student Succeeds. The translation, from what I can tell, and the big change here is that for low-performing schools, under 5%, you know, on the performance scale, states and local districts will have more discretion to make their own choices about how they can better those schools' performances. That is the very brief cliff note on that. You should pay more attention to it, and we will guest up this conversation sooner than later because education is an important thing, and believe it or not, it builds audience. Every time we do something in education, people sit around and they watch because instinctively, you know it's important. An open letter. I received this and published it, and you know what? It's on it should be on my Facebook page soon. If it's not, I'll make sure it is. It just dawned on me that I'm always behind on my social media thinking. It's because I'm old and fat and tired and, you know, all those kind of things. But anyway, see, they're laughing. They all, yes. Supreme Court headline here. Did I just jump? No. Supreme Court in Rhode Island. I thought I was in Washington. That's exactly what I wanted, and Kev did exactly what I called for. Nice job. See, old, fat, stupid doesn't get you anywhere in this business. Anyway, the Rhode Island Supreme Court has made a decision. We talked about it last night, actually 2 nights ago, with Paul Dowdy, the firefighter union head. The decision is simply this: they did not go with the city of Providence to stay going to arbitration to battle over the firefighter union contract, meaning the city's lost again. Because the city hasn't been thinking clearly about what the city is doing here. And what the city has done, now that it's lost 2, 3, 4 times, is started to almost create stories, to almost create a public relations campaign against the firefighters. Listen, I don't do a lot of union, you know, nonsensical apologizing here. If you've been a watcher or a listener of me at any length of time, you know that. But this union is getting the hammer. Eventually, the taxpayers are going to get the hammer because the city's not operating properly in this effort to make 3 platoons out of 4 inside a contract without negotiating it properly. Long story short is that they are in trouble, man. And now they're just kind of picking on the fire department, as Paul Dowdy would suggest. He's the union president. He was on a couple of nights ago.
No, my members don't like it. Unfortunately, at this point, we've gotten used to it. I mean, it is his go-to play. Every time, it's like Tom Brady's 2-minute drill. Every time they get caught sideways on an issue, they'll throw out some allegation of criminality, investigations, some innuendo, and then they'll just kind of leave it out there.
Okay, and so it's a mess. And that whole sentiment that Paul is talking about was really clear to me when I was sent an open letter from a guy by the name of Joe Marino, who's finishing up his 23rd year as a firefighter and is soon to retire. Here's a look at the open letter. And in the 5th paragraph, he kind of gets to it. The letter is to his son. And he's saying to his son, hey, listen, son, we've been proud of you for a long time, and now that you're a 2-year firefighter, you know, we're even prouder, but we think you should leave the business. You know, he writes, you know, I'm writing to ask you to consider leaving the job. You can throw that up again, Kev. Maybe if people with big screens can take a look at it. I know it's hard to consider, but I don't see the current atmosphere and work conditions getting any better. You have a college degree, and you're still young with your whole future in front of you. You deserve a job in management that respects the work you do, but also respects your family life. It's evident this mayor and administration that support him have no respect for the job of firefighter or how these changes affect you and your family. We'll post that letter, and it's already on the WPRO website at 630WPR.com. It'll be on our Facebook page at Dan York Show. We'll tweet it out at Dan York Show. You should take a look, take a read. The atmosphere and the morale is so broken down right now. And they're not crying like babies this time, the firefighter union. This is a hammer job and an irresponsible administration doing the hammering. What was that? Oh, somebody had a phone ringing there. Everyone's got, I'm like, what is that? Some spirit from the sky came down and had a comment about my commentary. That's my guest's phone. We'll be asking him about that in a second. But in the meantime, nothing like almost live television, right? The woes of this restaurant continue. The headline in the Boston Globe, you know, one outbreak in one restaurant, yikes. And the CEO talks about some of the challenges that they've had.
It's a really tough time. But first I have to say I'm sorry for the people who got sick. They're having a tough time, and I feel terrible about that. And we're doing a lot to rectify this and to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. That's Steve Ells, the CEO of the Chipotle. I never say it right. My friends here are fans of Chipotle. See, I say Chipotle. I don't know. I just for me, it's just the harder word to get out. I've never been there. I think it's like Moe's or competitors, whatever. But it goes to show you how tough it is to run a restaurant. It's also tough to run a basketball team when more than half of them have eaten at Chipotle. You know, the BC team managed to get on the floor, but they got beat by a PC team that also had one star player get sick as well. I'm guessing that it was not a transfer of sweat and a neurovirus from BC to PC, but it was just a whole big rigmarole. They almost couldn't even make playing in the ball game. Crazy. All right, and a couple of other notes real quick here. I don't know anything about this other than to note that, you know, it happened. Meaning we don't know the answer. Nobody else does at press time. The headline in the Boston papers here, yeah, the governor's not too happy about this, the tea that left on its own, all by itself. Hopefully it's isolated, right, Governor?
Some of the controls had been manipulated, and there's an ongoing investigation right now that involves folks from the MBTA, from DOT, and from public safety. From what we can tell at this point, it appears to be an isolated incident.
We all hope so. With terror worries and all this kind of stuff, accidents, I hope, or a mischief by one individual, I hope, doesn't need to feed into all the rest of the mess. Speaking of the rest of the mess, this has been the theme for quite some time, of course. We've got, you know, a headline on this, I'm quite certain. Yes, we always do. I don't know. You answer that question. Here's what CBS is reporting.
Political pundits called Donald Trump a phenomenon, an unexpected force dominating the GOP race for president. The billionaire businessman has 35% support in the latest CBS News New York Times poll released Thursday morning, his strongest numbers yet. But the voters have yet to weigh in on Trump's call for a ban on Muslims entering the U.S. Some of the most recent polling was taken beforehand. Trump told Fox News his primary concern was the safety of Americans. elections. While nearly every Republican candidate says they disagree with Trump on his plan, none of them have said they won't support him if he wins the GOP nomination. But one says he's close. But stealing support back from Trump could be hard. 51% of his supporters in the CBS News poll say their minds are made up and they're sticking with Trump.
Baloney. Baloney. That's all I have to say about that. Baloney. It's way too early for that kind of conviction. And by the way, half of them saying they'd move is a significant amount of the potential voter population anyway. But you know, nationally and internationally, there's a lot of worry and pushback. Check out this spokesperson from overseas.
We are concerned that the rhetoric that is being used in the election campaign is putting an incredibly important resettlement program at risk that is meant for the most vulnerable people, the victims of the wars that the world is unable to stop.
From the United Nations. And you got to know that when you're on a platform of presidential politics, that things you say, the more dramatic they are, they have impact, even though you're just waxing, freelancing, Donald. Muhammad Ali is getting into the action here too now. He's, you know, they're all getting into the action. And so we've got some local reaction. By the way, is that your phone ring? Was that your phone ringing?
It was.
It was, okay. I just like, what?
It was a call for prayers.
It was a call,
Not the
for,
ring.
a call for
Yeah,
prayers?
I'm sorry.
Well,
It
you
was
know,
silent.
that's fine. I was just
Thank you.
spiritually spooked by that. The principal of the Islamic School of Rhode Island, Abdelnasser Hussein, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
We'll elaborate over the course of the show, but quick reaction to what's been going on. Trump, the challenge for American Islamists, American Muslims. What's your gut telling you right now?
I would like to say, I believe that this kind of way of thinking and this mentality is existing. But it was frustrating to hear it from a person who is a presidential candidate. It was very frustrating to hear it from the person who is thinking to take the leadership of this country. And what is not expected to is when you have such a kind of audience who are really agreeing with him. In that sense, I am not getting the point here about Islam or not Islam. I'm talking about the country. So this is always what we are thinking about. Is it gonna be something that goes with our values, the ethics that really established and founded this country? Is what we call for in that kind of segregation for a certain religion and saying this here and there, and it's spreading and spread hatred between each other. Is that what we really need? This is a question to me. And
Sorry, he says it's all about safety.
yeah, and he's right about safety, but termination, deletion, removal is not always the solution for safety. No one says we are against safety. We have to think about the way that how can we protect our country, protect our nation, our citizens. He's right in this. But it's always not the idea of the good intention. It's always, what about the means we are going to use?
All right, hold that thought. We shall continue with the principal of the Islamic School of Rhode Island. Stay with us.
Donald Trump sounds more like a leader of a lynch mob than a great nation like ours. He and others are playing into the hands of ISIS. This is exactly what ISIS wants from Americans, to turn against each other.
The principal of the Islamic School of Rhode Island is with us. Thought on what CARE had to say?
You can say I am with them or not, but there are many details. Using that kind of language as a mob, I don't like him to use that kind of language against me. So if I'm talking about him, I don't like to use the same language like this. But the idea of helping and supporting ISIS, in what meaning? do we mean does CARE talk about directly or indirectly? Indirectly, I do agree with them. Yeah, that's right. In the sense that if ICE is doing this here and there, so they will be successful only when they get us in dispute, they get us killing each other, they get us removing each other and segregation. So I agree in that point, but it doesn't mean that Trump is a part of ISIS. What he did is a part of what ISIS needed. I agree with that.
I get that. Let's come home. How's school?
School is doing well.
Yeah.
How
many kids do you have at the Islamic School of Rhode Island?
We have 160 students.
Okay, and a few years ago you had a vandalism problem, and the community rallied and supported you in that situation. So things are status quo, and it's good. Kids are okay. They feel good about being in school. The whole thing.
They are okay. We have seen much of solidarity from everybody in our local community.
In West Warwick, by the way, so everybody knows.
Yeah, it's in West Warwick.
Right.
And we had seen all the Jewish community, the rabbis, they were with us. The diocese, they were with us. Our fellow schools and our friends from other schools and people from all over the country. I would like to say I received some flowers shipped from Florida. Many emails coming
Well, listen,
from
kids are our precious cargo, and I think that's the common ground that everybody shares. Once we start to get to adult level, things get a little hectic and confrontational, but I was thankful, and we certainly did our part to try to spread the news on that back in the day. My point, I guess, in asking is to ask today, with the current climate and the conversation that's been going on in the last week or so, are the kids getting it? Are they responding to it? Are you talking about it in the school? Is it impacting?
No, my philosophy in the school is not to raise that controversial issues unless it is coming up. You are talking about kids.
What about the parents that are paying tuition and how they feel about it?
Of course, they feel they need to secure their kids. They need to make sure that the school is taking every precaution to have their kids safe. And from time to time, we are in a great contact with them, and I have a great contact with the law enforcement of West Warwick. I have great contact with law enforcement, even in Rhode Island State Police.
How old are the kids in the school? Grades
They
what
are
to when?
from pre-K to grade 8.
Okay, so elementary up through what's the highest level of middle school. In the past or now, do you hear the children talking a little bit about difficulties they've had in the greater community when news cycles roll like this? Or so far has it not risen to a level of impact?
No, from the kids, never. I've never heard anything that is affecting them.
And so by and
there
large,
or here.
these children who are Muslim
Yes.
have been able to operate in the community without any concern or worry. They feel like Rhode Islanders.
They feel that, and we are focusing on giving them that feeling, because they have to feel that they are a part of this community, and they have the right to live safely in this community, and they have the right not to fear. So we are also trying to instill this in our kids. The school, the administration, the staff, faculty, and the parents. We are all working together to give them that feeling and taking them away from any kind of notation of being threatened. So I think we are trying to do our part from this point, but to be fair, we are safe. We don't have anything that happened after that vandalism.
Yeah, good. Well, so listen, that yin and yang should exist. But when I come back, I want to talk about some of the challenges I've been issuing to leaders of the Muslim community here, which is to get out there, man, and start telling us about what's going on inside mosques, schools, the like, to calm things down. Stay with us. Abdelnasser Hussein is the principal of the Islamic School of Rhode Island. My guest last night and I talked about, she's a student of Islam, she's a teacher of Islam, she's an instructor in political science in the Middle East, and she kind of agreed with me that the Muslim community's got to get a little bit more proactive than reactive. I think one of the things that too many Americans, not just Rhode Islanders and Southern New Englanders in general, but too many Americans have this kind of unknown neuroses about what it is you people do. You know, what's going on inside a mosque? What's going on inside an Islamic school? What are you teaching? You know what I'm talking about. Talk to me about that.
Okay, let me start from this point. As a school, we are teaching the same curriculum of the public schools. So the standards, the ethics, the values of this nation is really planted in the best way we can do in our kids, since they are a part and they are the citizens of this country. So this is number one. For anyone who would like to visit us, he is very welcomed anytime. Our school gates are open for everyone who would like to come and visit us. And by the way, let me tell you that we have our friends, we have a program with the Jewish school in Rhode Island, and our parents from the two schools are working together for an activity that is coming next month. We have a good relationship with the Catholic school that is next to us. We had a basketball program getting our kids together, integrate and play together. We had many people, many teachers from the public school system. They are visiting us in the school and they are even tutoring our kids. So our school is open. We are not living in a castle and no one can enter. Anyone is welcome.
Okay, perfect. But you know what I'm talking about, right?
I know what you are talking about, and this is what I'm telling you. For the mosques, please come to the mosque. Who can come to the mosque and tell me if someone told him you are not allowed to enter? It will never. It has never happened, and it will never happen. The mosque doors are open every time, 5 times a day for prayers. When we are there, it's open for everyone. In Ramadan, if you know about that month, fasting, we always invite non-Muslim people to have dinner with us. And we don't lock our doors. All the chaplains working here and there, they are all known for everybody. And today, I think in URI, they had an open house for the faculty and the staff of URI. We have another open house coming in the Mosque of Al-Karim. We have many activities that were going on inside our school in other mosques, and this is what's going on. If you would like to come and investigate inside the mosque for weapons, I don't think I'm gonna say yes or no. I'm gonna ask a question. Is it something constitutional? Come in. We don't have anything to hide. And I always say to the media, please, don't listen about us. Listen from us. We're here. We're available. I know we have some mistakes in getting in touch with the people outside, but it's not because we reject. It's because of many other reasons. We are not so many in Rhode Island, for example. How can I come here if you didn't invite me?
Right. Well, listen. So we'll have more conversation. We're out of time, but I wanted you to make that speech. If anything is coming from this awful terror attack and some of the demagoguery that's going on around it, is that perhaps there's a better understanding between different communities, and that can't be overlooked. Come on the radio soon with me, and we'll talk more about this. And good luck with the school. Appreciate you coming.
I would be very happy to be always with you.
All right, very good.
Thank you so
we'll
much.
be right back with our final word and tell you about tomorrow night's show. More of the same. Stay with us. Say a funny aside at the top of the show there when I was like, what is that? That was Abdelnasser Hussein's reminder that it's time to pray on his iPhone. That's what I hope you heard it. We had a good laugh about it. More discussion of the community tomorrow night, and I'll see you on the radio tomorrow too. Bye.